That's what they're doing. So I just want to make that clear. I'm definitely not saying like Jews are bad people or whatever. I'm just saying that there are people that are out there that, like we were talking about before, they're plants and they're set there to just make a mess of things and to leave or lay blame on a specific group of people.
Yeah, it's false flag. It's false flag all the way.
Yeah.
And there's this driving force of the whole New World Order of religion that is to get everybody to realize. I mean, in one sense, this whole charade can be viewed as a big play to get everybody to hate Christianity and Judaism. This whole thing is a big orchestration, and with a lot of different things going on, and a lot of different actors and players and lights and smoke machines. But at the end of the day, at the end of this war, everybody's going to blame Christianity and Judaism. And that just so happens to be what it said would happen in Revelations 12, So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. But I just take the long road and the windy road to get there.
Well, when I made my statement originally, I wasn't just for clarification. I wasn't trying to imply that we shouldn't be supporting Israel. It's just that I wonder sometimes which part of Israel Christians look at, or do they see Israel as those two very distinct parts? There are many people that will support Israel blindly and just say, hey, whatever, we have to support Israel. But like you said, the Israeli government is not necessarily the same as that portion of religious Israeli people. So, I think we need as Christians to be careful about which portion of Israel we are supporting or what we're talking about when we say we support Israel. When I say I support Israel, I support the Torah-believing, Old Testament-believing Jews. I definitely don't support what I see, is happening in the Israeli government. Right?
It's so obvious when, like, Hillary Clinton says what she says, which was basically, what was it, that she'll nuke Iran if they invade Israel or something. It's so obviously just another line in the play, It's so obvious that everybody in the world is going to look at that, no matter what they know about the New World Order, or if not, especially if they do know about the New World Order, they're going to immediately have the knee-jerk reaction of, there you go, there's your proof. This is all Jewish people. I hate them, and blah 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 blah. And then on the other side of the fence, you're going to have people that don't know anything about anything say, you know what? I don't think we should be supporting Israel and whatever. But the fruit of the whole thing is exactly what they wanted it to be. I mean, nobody benefits positively from that statement by her.
No. And, it just goes along with Israel being a burden, upon everyone. And I don't know. It's just yet another prophecy coming true that no one seems to really understand, outside of the fact that the United Nations put Israel there. And, so Israel's there and we need to support them. Nobody really ever looks beyond that, and it's not as far as I'm concerned.
Well, there's another good example of and it's hard for me to believe that the United Nations motive was a pure one. I just have a hard time. Yet they were instrumental in putting Israel back on the map. So the question is, what was their motive? And again, it's what I said before. It's God allowing man to do certain things, which in turn actually fulfill the prophecies. And allowing man to walk his own way, into destruction,
And I think in one level too, it makes the people that actually made that happen, the people that really understand what their role is in the New World Order, be filled with this satanic pride in that they are true believers, thinking, look what we're doing. God doesn't exist. We are God. We're the ones making this stuff happen.
Yeah,
and so it fulfills this pride in them to further create this loyalty towards Satan in that regard, I think, as far as those people go.
Well, go back to Genesis. What was the temptation to Eve and Adam? If you eat the apple, you will be like God. So whether it's a matter of you being able to control the weather, well, as Ziggy said before, I thought God only controlled the weather. So, you control the weather, well, you are like God. Same thing here. You're the ones actually making these prophecies come through. It's not God. It's us moving the world in the direction that we believe it needs to move.
Exactly.
Hey guys, I just typed in Mason and Israel, and I got on the image on Google, and this is one of the reasons why I don't trust the Israeli government, is because right smack in the middle of in the city of Eliat, there is there is the Freemason sign, a little temple, the Egyptian, the Eye of Horus there, and it's right smack in Israel. Like, the Freemasons are saying, like, we here and we have influence and we control decisions, made here in this country. That's one of the reasons that if you type in Mason and
but you
Israel,
also have to. You'd have to also. I mean, I agree with you 100%. And especially, you should look at the courthouse there. That thing is incredibly New World Order to the bone. But as a lot of stuff is, a lot of that stuff's on Rockefeller land. But you have to realize the schemes of Satan have always been the same thing. You probably find Satan trying to be everywhere that is the most holy and sanctified and everything else. I mean, of course, Satan's going to set up shop and try to build his entire kingdom in Jerusalem. It doesn't mean really anything about. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. It's now. While I will agree with you that, as I said, that faction has usurped all the power or most of the power of the government. And in the case that it always did throughout the Bible and the Torah times, when a lot of those kings, I mean, heck, in Josiah's day, they didn't even find the book of the law, in the temple. I mean, it was so far gone, nobody even remembered what the law was. So it's not unprecedented in history, but it also have to remember, the devil is trying to be everywhere that God is. So it's hard to, I guess, I know I have these knee-jerk reactions to defend it. So, but I don't know. I have a soft spot in my heart for the ways and laws of God, but I know you do too. Again, everybody does. Shoot, I mean, what am I talking about? But
no, I hear you, man. It's the thing is that we all guilty of this, because the way the Israeli government and the Israeli people, they have allowed this symbol, and I know they know what this thing means, being set up and shop in their country. But we as a church too, talking now us as the Gentile, engrafted into Israel, we've allowed, Santa Claus, we've allowed all this, Easter. I mean, we've allowed all this stuff, in our world, in the things of God, and we're both guilty of it, and that's what I'm trying to wake, some of my fellow friends and people that listen to the podcast show, that, we need to get out of Babylon. Babylon is all over the church. We need to get back to the things that God, commanded us to live by and follow his rules and his instructions and his mitzvah, his commandments. But all this stuff with Israel, allowing all this stuff happening in there, and us allowing all this, paganism creeping in. I heard Mark mention something about the Sunday law. Brother, I want to let you know that I got that book from the Nazarite website, and he was offering free. I don't know if he's charging right now, but when I read that, it makes total sense. Yeah. I could probably see in the future that they will, annihilate, Saturday. Everybody has to worship on Sunday. And, the ones that, the Latter-day Saints, whoever, keeps the Sabbath, those people right there are going to start getting persecuted hardcore.
Absolutely. And I've done some podcasts with Stephanie, and Stephanie is a Seventh-day Adventist in her practice per se, and she's very on top of all that. And it's funny, in her absence, I just downloaded. I was going to do a piece on the Sunday law, because I've heard it mentioned on a couple of other podcasts. I think Brother T had an interview on that touched on it. And I'm seeing it come from other places other than the Adventists, and I'd like to get some of that out there. So I have a lot of information here that I'm going to be working on. But remember that, one thing I try to make people understand, and I'm sure most people do, this Sunday law isn't going to happen as a result of, Catholicism shoving it down our throat. It's not going to happen that way. The Sunday law is going to happen as a result of mainstream Protestant denominations going along with that. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to take one church and say, hey, we're going to shove this down your throat. It won't happen that way. It's going to be the persuading of the Protestant religions throughout the country. You know, you mentioned Christmas, you mentioned Easter, you mentioned paganism. When this country was founded, who was it founded by? It was founded by people who ran from England, who ran from the Church of Rome, who ran from all the pagan practices and so forth, and came here wanting to worship in a pure and biblical way. And the paganism followed them across the sea. You know, and I heard in a recent podcast, I'm not sure which one of you guys did it, but I think it was one of you, you know, why did people actually head west? They didn't head west for gold. They head west trying to move away from what was overtaking the country, starting on the east and working its way across, trying to get away from, you know, from that influence of paganism. And, you know, we're at a point right now where, you know, as Protestants, most Protestant churches worship on Sunday. We've forgotten the Sabbath as dictated to us in the Bible, and we've taken on the Sabbath of what I consider to be a fairly pagan church. You know, Christmas wasn't celebrated in the very early portions of this country's history, but most people would believe that it is. But the history books have been rewritten. You know, historical revisionism is a big tool. And so, you know, everything is pushing us towards that, and I think you can start to see, I've done some podcasts on the apostate church, you know, and some people say a 1-hour podcast is too long, and I'm thinking like an 8-hour podcast is necessary to touch on some of these subjects because you can't do them justice without it. But, you know, that's the apostasy in the church, I think, is part of a plan, you know, and so a lot of this is being thrust, has been thrust on us as a country over many, many, many years, and most people don't see it because we're born into families and into denominations that just seem to, you know, have absorbed and taken on a lot of these pagan practices and carried them over as truth, you know. So here we are worshiping, not we, but some people, you know, paying tribute to God with our lips, but our hearts are far from Him because we take, you know, the doctrines of men and teach them as the teachings of God, and we pass them on generation to generation.
Here. We got I don't know if this is going to cut off because this is set for 2 hours, but we're at like an hour and 57 minutes and a half a minute, so we got like 2.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Well, you guys wrap it up. You do it.
Well, we should go ahead and set a time for next week sometime around the general time. So if anybody's listening here, they can. I think we had fun tonight. I think this is a really interesting way for everybody to talk in the chat room and to get on here and we could take calls and talk to people we've never talked to before. It's awesome.
Absolutely, 110%. Probably the coolest time I've had doing any podcast so far. I don't know what time is good for you, Chris. Do you want to just announce it during the week, or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that because I'm sure we'll have some things change between now and then. But probably sometime, you know, around the same time next week, I'd say. Okay,
there'll be right on salvationrevelation.com in a sidebar. I'll once I talk to Chris, I'll probably announce it in the show, but there'll be like a countdown in the sidebar, and I'll let you know exactly when the next show will be.
Yeah, and I'll do the same thing on my site. That's going to be great. All right. Anything else? You got anything you need to say or promote or anything?
I just want to thank everyone for partaking in this, and I really look forward to doing it again. And just God bless everyone and be safe. And whatever you guys want to say to close out is cool with me.
Mark, Ziggy, you got anything needs to be promoted?
Not really. Just want to say I love you guys, Frank, Chris, Mark. I love you guys, you know, and Yeshua, Jesus our Lord. You guys do an awesome job. I look up to you guys every day. And all the listeners that subscribe to Revelation Radio Network and to the Fourth Watch, I love you guys too. And remember, live or die, we trust in God. Shalom to all of you guys, and I'll see you guys next week.
And
thanks, man.
That, and you know, I think you guys did a great job here. It's a wonderful format, and really appreciate being able to be a small part of that. Keep up the great work. You two guys are doing a bang-up job. You really are.
Thanks, man.
Right on. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.